Hachana, preparation, is a very important concept that we need to realize. Rav Shimshon Pincus in his there's a Haggadah, Tiferes Shimshon, on pages Kaftes, the Chavtes talks about how this is one of the foundations of our religion. Let's talk about someone who was traveling, and he was very, very tired because he was traveling. When he reaches to his destination, he's so tired and he goes to sleep. He goes to daven maariv. We don't need to describe how the maariv will be. He's exhausted from the journey. But now let's make the same exact scenario, but with different circumstances. All right. Let's say you have someone who's traveling from a far distance to go to Yeshiva. He wants to learn. And he's so excited to daven in the Yeshiva on Rosh Hashana, on Yomim Noraim. But he has to travel a very long journey. And not only that, but there was an unexpected failure on the journey on the way to the Yeshiva. Something happened with the tires, with the car, the vehicle, whatever, something happened. And he comes into Yeshiva only 15 minutes before Shkia. He just made it and he's incredibly tired. He has a headache. He goes into the base medrash. How will his maariv be? It'll be unbelievable. What's the difference between the two scenarios? Well, number one, there's a special heavenly assistance on Rosh Hashana. There's a siyata d'shmaya. But the real explanation is bachur shenosa b'mechesh yomayim kedei lehagia liyeshivasa l'Rosh Hashana hayakol hazman b'matzav shel achana. This individual who was traveling to the yeshiva to be there on Rosh Hashana, the entire trip was considered, it was all preparation. He was preparing, he was eagerly anticipating when that moment would come. Throughout the entire journey, he said, I can't wait to daven maariv at the yeshiva. He was anticipating, he was contemplating, he was thinking about this matter. And therefore, once there's preparation involved, it's a whole different story over here. What's the best way for success in whatever we do in life? Preparation. The more preparation we do for anything in life, the greater the chances that we'll have for success will be. Let's say you have a doctor and he's going to be performing open heart surgery over here. If he's a person who's serious about his profession, he's achrai, he takes responsibility upon himself. He's very serious about his profession. He's going to be thinking about the surgery hours before the surgery, the intricate details that he needs to know. Not that I could tell you that I have experience regarding open heart surgery, but I would imagine even someone who's been doing it for years, in the back of his mind is going to be thinking about certain nuances that he needs to get done even before the surgery. That's why surgeons make the most money out of any doctor. Talking about like hourly workers. The surgeons, they got to think about it. That stuff's complicated. You could be in there hours straight, many, many hours. No bathroom breaks, no food breaks, nothing.
No bathroom breaks?
No, nothing. When you're in there, yeah, the surgery, look into it. This stuff is real deal. This stuff is time sensitive. You can't just leave and then come back. And it's a whole process, sterilization, the clothing, everything like that. The point is that what? You have to think about that. You have to think about the surgery before. Right? Let's talk about mincha over here. Right? Let's say a person's gonna quickly daven mincha before shkia. You remembered a few minutes before shkia, 10 minutes, I got to daven. He's rushing over there. He's got no preparation at all. Versus a person who comes 5, 10, even longer minutes early to davening. He sits down, he learns, he prepares mentally. He prepares for it. You think it's going to be the same type of mincha? It's going to be totally mincha over it. It's going to be totally different mincha. Guy comes home late to his house. And he goes, I didn't daven maariv yet. How's the maariv going to look like? You got to prepare. Someone who gets up in the morning and he quickly runs to shul to grab a shachris, to check the box, to get it over with, to knock it out, so to say. Right? How's that shachris going to be? Versus someone who, right, thinks about it, who comes early, who prepares for it. Right? Anything that we do suddenly, also someone finishes eating, you remember, I need to bench. No.
You want to do it?
Anyone who does something suddenly, it's not going to be as good than if there was preparation that was involved. It's all about the prep. Right? That's what it has to be. So we see the greatness which is achieved from the preparation. Ad kan l'shtoino of Rav Shimshon Pincus at Sal's. That's what Rabbi Pincus says. I'd like to add some ideas to this concept. of when it comes to preparation over here. It's an important idea over here. This applies to the entire Seder as well. What's the way that we would have a successful Seder? The answer is if we prepare in advance, like exactly what we're doing. You got to learn about it. There's a lot going on. You can't just show up on the night of the Seder. You got to learn about it. You got to think about it. That's the idea. Right? That's when it
Can we
comes
talk
to,
about? Oh, sorry.
right? That's when it comes to the Seder. We have to have the private mindset for serving Hashem. If we don't prepare, we're limiting our potential for success. Let's say he's getting married, but he starts preparing the night before his wedding. Not going to be good at all. We should minimally learn the basic explanation of the entire Haggadah, go through it, prepare many different ideas to say at the Seder. I once read in a sefer on Shalom Bayis. What does it talk about over there? Shalom Bayis, man, over here. What does it talk about over there? Listen to your wife, yeah. If she tells you to jump off a building, you don't listen to her. So you got to know it's not so simple. Good point, right? So cases like this, how long does it take to learn how to drive? Well, depends on the people. There are plenty of people who've been driving for years. If it was up to me, they wouldn't be able to have a license, but it ain't. But that's another discussion of itself. But it takes more than 2 minutes to learn how to drive, correct? Yeah, it takes time. You got a driver's ed. You got to take all the tests over there, whatever you need, Why is marriage any worse than driver's ed? How many hours, hundreds of hours, does a person prepare for marriage, studying the subject, even after they're married, fresher course, how to maintain proper peace in the house, what do women want, and what do men want? How can I make my marriage better? How can I improve my family life, my relationship with my children? It's all about preparation. If you study something, you learn about it, you're going to be more successful. Like I read once in a book, the expression goes, you are what you eat. You are what you read. Also is an expression, is a concept. You are what you see. You are what you hear. That's why you got to make sure to read the right material, to watch the right material, to listen to the right material. That's the idea over here. We have to prepare ourselves in this world by learning Torah and performing mitzvahs so that we'll be able to eat in the next world. Misha Taroch Be'erev Shabbos Yoichel b'Shabbos. Someone who prepares on the eve of Shabbos. We have Shabbos coming up tonight. He'll have what to eat on Shabbos. If you don't prepare, you won't have what to eat. The halachas preparing before davening, right? There's an idea of singing the simonim. This is a whole other idea in and of itself. Kadesh Orachat. Why do we sing that part? It's a universal custom. Why do we sing it? According to my humble opinion, one answer could be as follows. Again, this is another Devar Torah in and of itself, but it's just tying it in over here. When we sing the Simonim, we're preparing. Our kavanah, our intent, will automatically be increased and be better during the Seder. What's the proof? We find that there's a concept, as we just mentioned, not going right into davening. The Gemara, the Mishnah in Brachos talks about, and the Gemara quotes a brisa to elaborate. Chasidim hayrishonim hayishon sha'achas koydim misfilas palim sha'achas shon achatil sha'achas, that they would come an hour early to every single davening. Daven an hour, then it would take an hour to take it back down into this world. It's not referring to Chasidim nowadays. These are people who are on the level of Ruach HaKodesh. The Gemara over there in Brachos, Lamed Beis and Beis elaborates on this even more. The point is that they would do this in order to have more concentration during davening. The Rambam in Hilchos Tefillah, Perek Daled Halacha Tezayin, writes that one needs to sit minimally before davening and wait for davening. Shulchan Aruch also discusses this halacha. The recordings around by Blond.com in the Mishnah Berurah section 93,1. Siman Sadi Gimel writes in the beginning, and the Mishnah Berurah over there, you take a look, the Mishnah Berurah, look it up. First Mishnah Berurah in that Siman clarifies that the Gemara encourages us to wait a full hour before davening. That was only referring to back then in their time. Nowadays, just even waiting a few seconds before davening would be sufficient. Just a few moments, think about, what do we need to daven for? All of the wars going on, all of the death, the sicknesses, the orphans, the widows, the poor people, people starving to death in Africa, all the wars for nothing. There's plenty to daven for the hostages, infertility. The list goes on and on. Think about that just for 10 seconds before davening. Guarantee your davening will be different. This is the explanation and logic behind the seemingly wasteful delay period before davening. This is the explanation. It's not a waste. Even just a little bit, our whole davening will change. You can't compare the davening of someone who thinks about it before versus someone who didn't. Someone who doesn't think about it is essentially handicapping himself before he begins to daven. That's the idea. It increases our chance for potential success. So too regarding the Seder, we have to make a cheshbon. We have to make a calculation over here and contemplate, what do we need to do for the Seder? What are we going to get ourselves into over here? What are our tasks for the Seder? Then our potential for success will increase. When we analyze the Seder, we're going to recite the halacha slower and with more kavanah. That's the idea. It's all about preparation. Imagine if I just showed up here and said, oh, we're going to learn this, we're going to learn that. No. When it's prepared, it's organized in a better way. It comes out better and it comes in better as well. Dvarim hayotzin min alev nichnasin alev. When something comes out of the heart, it goes right in the heart. That's why you see these people. Anytime I speak in front of more than usually 20 people or more, I never have notes, ever. Doesn't matter if it's 15 minutes or an hour. It's all by heart. Why? Because I'm going to prepare that properly. Because these people, when you see that they're just sitting there, they're giving a long speech or something and they're reading off of a thing, that's not from the heart. When you remembered it to the extent that you know it all by heart, why do you think it's called by heart? It's in your heart. It's in there. And when it's in your heart, when it comes out of the heart, it goes into the heart. Now, there's an idea of looking inside for accuracy. If you're not going to be accurate, you got to look inside. But there's an idea of what? Of Baal Peh coming out of your heart. That's the idea over here. Later on, I actually found this idea in the, what do you call this? The Haggadah of the Rosh Yeshiva, in the second volume, I call it book 2, on page 48. Rabbi Yaakov Ruderman, he said that a spiritual endeavor cannot be properly accomplished without first attuning oneself to the appropriate frame of mind, allowing one to appreciate the experience. And then, by the way, they quote that same Gemara in Brachos that we just quoted by Tefillah. So, Baruch Shekivanti, literally quote the whole thing. And then adds, this is why Psukkah de Zimra was enacted. It was instituted before Shemona Esrei. Same reason. We go in the proper state of mind, but we don't just jump into Shemona Esrei. We go in the proper state of mind. Similarly, the Sefer HaChinuch explains the reason behind the mitzvah Siras HaOmer is to provide an opportunity for someone to ready himself mentally for the Zman Kabbalah Torah, the time when we receive the Torah. It's all this idea of preparations. Proper mental preparation is necessary in order to fully experience the intrinsic spirituality of a mitzvah. The lack of this proper motivation has the potential of leading to disaster. And it says over here that goes into the story of the Yerushalmi over here. Yeah, that's the idea over here. Basically, Taisvus made this Yerushalmi famous in Chagiga and Yudal and Alf. Taisvus over there says Elisha ben Navuya, and there's a whole other reasons and discussions. He went off the derech because it was whole thing was lo lishma at the bris. It was for ulterior motives and whatever. And the idea is that it wasn't proper preparation, so to say. That's the idea over here. The Seforno writes in Shmos Kaf Ches Hey that it is not enough that they would wear the big day kahuna, the priestly garments, right, of the Mishkan. They had to be made with special intent that the garments were being created, but even the collection of the materials had to be undertaken with specific and deliberate intent. In other words, not only when they were being made, but even when the materials were being collected for the garments, it had to be with special intent, aka the preparation. The more preparation and enthusiasm invested in the performance of the mitzvah, the more that mitzvah becomes infused with greater levels of sanctity. Similarly, Seforno in Lamed Ches, Chaf Aleph in Shmos, so the difference between the portable Mishkan and the Beis HaMikdash built by Shlomo HaMelech is the wooden boards of the Mishkan, which was consecrated by Betzalel under the supervision of Moshe. This week's parsha, Betzalel. It remained intact forever. Gemara and Yuma and Ayin Beis and Aleph. However, when Shlomo built and he had workers who weren't Jewish, it was destroyed without a trace. In other words, what was the intention that went into it, and what was the preparations involved? That's the idea over here.
Intentions?
He had workers who weren't Jewish who didn't have the right intentions. Correct? Apparently, yeah. Okay, stop it at that one.